Welcome to our virtual design conversations this afternoon. My name is Linnea Haggard here at Sundberg-Ferar. And just while we're waiting for everyone to get settled, I'm just going to go over some quick housekeeping things. First of all, we have a really great lineup of speakers today. We're really excited to get started, and we're really excited to have all of you join us as well. We call this virtual design conversations because we love to hear from you. We love to keep this interactive. So feel free. This is the most important thing. If you don't know where the chat box is in Zoom, just wiggle your mouse around the screen and your toolbar will pop up. And then there's a little button, a little icon in there that says chat. So go ahead and open that up. You'll see there's already some people letting us know who they are and where they're calling in from today. We love that. So let us know where you're from, and feel free to chat with the other attendees as well. And we will be taking our Q&A from you live through there as well. And I will also be posting relevant links as we go along. So don't miss out on that. That's one of the most important things of what we do here today. So with that, one last thing, if you are curious to see what's coming up next in the event, visit our event page online. I will post the link in the chat momentarily. And I will also post our emails in there as well in case there are any questions that we don't quite get to today. You can reach out to us after. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Zhivak, our moderator, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you again, Linnea. And it's really a beautiful day. I'm not just saying about the little weather out there. It's finally spring. It's greener out there. It's getting a little bit warmer, a little bit happier. And I think that's what we all want. But apart from that, I think one of the best thing to happen is literally last year we saw how vulnerable not just the human species is, but our ecosystem, our entire economy, and the businesses we are in. Whatever happened, but now I think as designers or maybe as businessmen or strategists, this is the time to really dig in and trying to find those uncontested wide open market spaces, right? Means as designers, we all I think are designers and engineers and makers and tinkerers. I think one of our common fundamental aim is to make things a little bit better and a little bit beautiful for everybody. So right now literally we are looking left and right at problems in the entire economy, in the entire society, in the cultural, the way we are using things or not using things. Means we have been in our homes and we can see so many things like, dang, why did I buy that? So it's letting us all look at things in a completely new perspective. And this is the time to really go and invest. It might be as a businessman investing in a completely new, let's say, organic way of taking the market space, or it might be a designer or an, I would say, an entrepreneur. Everybody has an idea. Why not to see how it's going to help elevate the pains and frustrations and the problems that everybody is going through? So, like we all know, as designers or as design mindset people, it's not just about I would say solving problems, which is a good thing to do over here. It's also about trying to find and pinpoint those opportunities out there, and trying to keep an eye and be always alert for them. Is right now we have been really working and swamped with work with people who are exposed to them, who want to make a contribution to it, who have their capacities in their lines or businesses, or the way they're manufacturing, that hey, we can maybe not leverage in the way we always wanted to intend, but hey, why not we can do something new over here. So literally as a call to everybody, it's it's again, I would say, the rebirth of the times of 1960s and 70s, where when literally NASA or human species went to moon, there was an amazing grassroots level kind of an I would say vibrancy and vitality to start something and aid into something to go literally to another celestial object. But now it is still trying to persevere, try to still be alive, but trying to still try to see how other things can be aligned. People have been shown, and right now not only a trend but it's a real fact, and the evidence is there. As we are still doing research in the market, people's sentiments have changed literally in a bad way overnight. The way they are looking out for the wants and needs and dreams and desires, and how to align those things in what they really believe in. And in this literally telecommuting society or the economy we have, we can literally order everywhere. Our target market doesn't have to be in Chicago or in Denver as such. So it's another way to look at things, and that's what we have been looking at things too, right? Means trying to always think. We got this time to think and try to redo things as such too. Some of the things, and I will just try to take you on a small journey over here as a studio. We did also invest our time in, I would say, redesigning our website too. And it was an fundamentally amazing kind of an experience, because I think most of us, let's say on the call, might be knowing we are one of the longest standing design studio in the nation. Started right here in Detroit, Michigan in 1934. So when we had to go back and look at the archives and look at what stood out, look at what were those nuggets that we know we should just coalesce together and maybe at least offer it to our audience, our clients, our partners, our friends. It was a difficult time to go through, literally tons and tons of information as such. But one thing always comes out and strongs pretty fervently, is the meaningful solutions through exceptional design. Means design just, and we can talk about the exceptional part, I mean, and break it down into 7 different kind of facets of it. But the purposefulness, the meaningfulness, we are still trying to go and try to make things useful and usable. We are not just talking about styling here, and that's a myth of the entire design community too. How to really go and make sure things which are usable are really sustainable. Sustainable is not just a materialistic property, it can be the extreme durableness of going to last for 100 years too. And we can talk about sustainability maybe in between speakers too, but trying to make sure we understand and how we leverage it further. The last line over here means from purely functional to exceptional. And that's the main thing. It doesn't have to be an sexy looking kind of a vehicle body only for getting people to see like, ooh, I want to go and have that. Functional objects. And today we have amazing four speakers to talk about understanding that functionality and then still making sure it goes into the world of exceptional to make the product impact, to make the market impact, to make a sustainable impact, and to really make to understand how we are going to aid each other in going forward. So, as I said, we kind of distilled out to the top 7 as such, and we can go a little bit more. I would say we'll glance through them as such, and they'll finally on our main page also on the main on our main web page as such. But one thing is foremost, technology is great. Technology will always be amazing. Technology is what makes us happy too. But it has to start with human centricity. Not maybe sometimes human, it might be the humanity centered design too. But understanding how people are going to use it, what they really wanted, what are the different benefits and attributes they're looking out for, and how they're going to involve it into their own lifestyle and their own world. There is no other reason to start than not being completely focused and immersed in what's happening in the minds of the end users and the influencers. It's never one user. We know that it's a multi-user kind of and stakeholders, but how to understand that at their point of origin, at the point of Gemba, not just in a lab or in a studio as such. So I think that goes on the fundamental part of the things too. The second aspect would be typically to make sure whatever we do, and maybe I kind of led to it, it just has to be a next level design. It cannot be a commodity, right? It cannot be a sea of sameness. Just because somebody's doing something, that's the way we are doing this. That's not strategy. That's literally copying or like, yeah, we are just going to go and have another slice of the entire pie of the business. It should never be that way. You just always have to make sure we're always trying to make it a little bit more purposeful, more beautiful, more elegant, more clever, fitting nicely into the way people are going to use or maybe misuse that product also. Anticipating those things would be the main part of it. Third part is no matter whatever we say as designers, it finally has to work. The marriage of design and engineering has to be there at the hip. As a studio means we have been practicing that for last almost 90 years, because it's not just artwork on the wall. It's not self-expression like, yeah, this is what I would like. No, it's again, we all know it's empathy, understanding how you really know what people would really got to have, want to have, and then making sure it is feasible. It still has to follow the laws of physics. I think nobody here has still found out a way to defy them. It might be a different multiverse kind of in section 2, but over here, it has to be manufacturable. Not just the laws of physics, the laws of economy too, the distribution line, made it here movement. And it's a pretty amazing thing to see how we can, again, use made right here on this soil and making sure we can use that in the product design, not just marketing, but real product design and craftsmanship also. So making sure anything we do always tries to land into the world of of I would say real physical business too. The fourth one is being different, right? Means different is not just different can be good and different can be for an evil thing also, but the right kind of different, the compelling things, the understanding is not being just being another commodity, but being completely original, novel. People should be saying like, it already has the table stakes are there. All the major elements of what needs to have would be over there. How it can be a little bit different and say like, yeah, I want to stand out. It can be polarizing. In fact, most of the best design products are always polarized. And that again goes back to the end user, making sure we understand the target. And then it would be different for them. It will be completely different, I would say, for the other segments of the society also, or maybe the other influencers also. The third last one is where typically we all should start. It's not about just user centricity. It's a pretty big part of it. It's also about making sure we align it to your business strategy. It might be a big company, medium-sized company, startup, entrepreneur, how it makes sure eventually the business is going to get money and is always in the black. How do we make sure we understand the core competencies of that manufacturing plant, or your distribution cycle, or your cross-docking, whatever strategic functions you would already have has to be aligned with the product design. It cannot be completely disparate parts as such. And no matter what, we always say good design is good business, right? Which is making sure they both are aligned together. And that's where the main harmony comes in. So people understand like, wow, this experience is designed from the product perspective, from the digital perspective, also from the service perspective on in the back end, making sure we can always go and back that in the portfolio world also. Second last, no matter what, one eye has to be on the future. It cannot be just here and now, right? Means it's sometimes good. We have to do that to understand the cash flow of the business too. And we can always try to solve the right here, right now, faster, better, cheaper, lightweight, little bit more sensorified problems as such. It's always nice to understand one eye on the future, the possible future, the probable future, the preferable future, the generative future as you and your supplier system ought to be doing. We make sure we go out, we catch where we want to go, we put a stake in the ground, then we try to go back and try to say okay, how we want to go over there. It can still be flexible. We all know it cannot be as determined as that, but at least playing out those scenarios, a few of them, and then making sure one of them would be the prime kind of an, I would say, uh, expression of your brand to go in front of you. Not just saying that we are working as a single company, but making sure you work with the, I would say, the other business players, other contemporary players, the other collaborative players in your system too. Getting the entire ecosystem, the supplier, the creative ecosystem together is right now another bigger trend happening on this side of the wall of how you approach these problems. Some of the problems out there are pretty complex and they're always changing and they're always pushed and pulled with plenty of variables. It might be insane to think a single unit needs to solve everything. It's always going to be working with other industries, with other studios to make sure how we can approach in the best way. So again, remember the first one, making sure the end users are happy and providing you and them the economic benefit. And the last but not the least, even though we all are in the world of virtual, we are in the world of AR, we are all of them doing and experimenting with it, nothing can take out the physicality of from your hand. The down here, down now, rolling your sleeves, getting it and try to making things. Even though the experience might be in the service world, but you can still try to make the layout of the office space or the aisles or let's say the commercial kitchens. It's an digital world is good means we also have the latest softwares and we can work in all the CAD world till the cows come home. But the immediate element of what's happening in the physicality, it might be low fidelity modeling, low precious material modeling, and then coming back into the world of craftsmanship. No matter what we learn from fast hands-on making, and then how do we leverage to making sure the intention of the designer's sketches and renderings and the storylines is really brought up all the way in the I would say the craftsmanship also. So I think I just wanted to make sure we just talk about at least the fundamental, bigger, foundational level elements of how to make sure we are still doing good, honest design business going forward as a studio, as an enterprise, or as a startup or entrepreneur also. So that was the overture, I would say, or the prelude as before we get on our speakers. It's 12:15, right on the clock. Let's try to welcome Bob here, the president of Lumecon. Bob, feel free to unmute yourself and also have your video on, and you can welcome Bob to the stage. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Good, Javik, my friend. How are you?
It's as I said, another day in paradise. It's a beautiful day, literally out here in Detroit. If you were a duck, it's rainy, but it's really good. I love your background too. Nice, always to have one eye on the horizon and trying to see the nature blooming and looking at the entire pattern over there. How we can go and jump directly into understanding more about Lumecon. But I really
Sure.
want to ask you a thing. You always say you believe in never forget where you come from and who got you there. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that? A little bit about your journey and your time and how you are heading this amazing company right now?
Yeah, I mean, something that pounded into my head by my father as I was growing up is that, never forget who you are, never forget where you came from. And my father's a German immigrant, came over very young with his family, and never took anything for granted. And so, if somebody along the way helps you achieve something, you carry that person with you for the rest of your life. If you, if you know, if the area or anyone else has really helped you, um, you know, grow your business, become more personally developed, whatever it is, you're all in the sum of everyone you've ever met.
Yep.
And so I really believe that, to this day, my childhood friends are still my best friends, right? But I've met a lot of new and great people like yourself along the way too, and that helped me make me a better person.
And where did you grow up? You are a local Michigan boy?
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called Clarkston, about 40 miles north of downtown Detroit. At the time, it was a very rural area, not so much anymore. As the municipal or as the metro area has grown, it kind of absorbed into my town as well. But yeah, we spent a lot of time tipping cows and fixing cars and stuff like that, but not so much anymore.
No, that's fundamental. And now you yourself started Lumicom, right? It's a self-made company.
Yeah, so myself and several other gentlemen, we got together and, um, we, two of us had some LED chip background, and we decided back in 2016 or 2006, I'm sorry, to get together and put together we didn't start off as a lighting company. We actually started off as a light engine company, making just circuit boards, and we had a small contracts from the United States Army. We had some small contracts for some traffic products, and then we just grew into a commercial lighting manufacturer.
Awesome. And I think in your free time, you said you follow analytics part, the mathematical parts of professional sports. How does that means? I love sports. I enjoy. I go there and come back. But the analytical part is pretty intense. Do you follow it fervently?
Yeah, I mean, not totally geeked out, but geek enough that you know we it, we spend a lot of time with my friends and family, and basically looking at statistics, and it started with Billy Ball or Moneyball out in
Moneyball.
Oakland, and kind of followed it from there, and so it's just kind of a passion to look at statistics and how do they translate onto the actual performance of the field. So
I learned a lot by that movie. By the way, I came here to the US 19 years ago. I was born in the world of context of cricket, which is a complete different domain. I don't I'm not an expert over there, but understanding the baseball, the movie actually, if I remember right, they were talking about it's not about it's not about getting the heavy hitters. It's about those small individual run makers that eventually can create a
yeah,
completely different strategy also. And that is so true in plenty of things, even in business development also, even in the world of design also. Is the book that we know from the oriental writer is Death by Thousand Cuts. In the same way over here also, it can be Life by Thousand, thousand hacks or something like that.
yeah.
So the smaller things keep on adding, and eventually I think they can find a way to coalesce together if they have right connecting points between them. But
That's
that
correct. I
movie
mean,
told me
Javik,
a lot
it's
of.
really we talk about it every day here, and that is that we want to hit singles. We want to get, and that's basically it with Moneyball is all about getting on base. It doesn't matter if you walk, get hit by a pitch, or you hit a single, get on base. And because you're not on base, you can't score. And that's really kind of life too, right? If you're always swinging for the fences, you're going to miss a lot. But if you're always looking just to get on base, then it's just one step at a time. So
I love that analogy, and I'm really looking forward to a couple of your let's say slides. You can feel free to share your slides. Let's go through it, and then we'll make sure we will field some questions from the audience.
okay, fantastic, fantastic. I'll go ahead and share right now. So what we wanted to do is kind of walk you through, yeah, for the designers that are on the call today about how we actually sat down and developed a product and brought it to market, and the partners that helped us get there along the way too. So this kind of feeds into don't forget where you were from. So we're going to talk about that right now too. So the first thing we did is, as a company, if you're in lighting or if you're in any other kind of manufacturing, to have your own tooling, to have your own look, to have your own design, your own identity is really paramount. Most people overlook lighting, right? But lighting is an art. And so if you talk to architects, if you talk to specifiers and engineers, a lot of them love to geek out on the lighting part of things because there's so much fascinating things that you can do with lighting, right? And you can set the mood. You can make a place secure that wasn't secure. You can help people see dark skies again if you do it appropriately, right? So there's so many facets of lighting. So in Lumecon, we started off, like I said, we were trying to figure out who we were. Well, when we first then set out to make our own line, our own tooled line, we knew that we wanted to actually become something that was centric around Detroit. Because at the time that we started this, Detroit was really going through a revitalization downtown. 15 years ago, you could do a U-turn on Woodward Avenue and never hit anybody. Today, there's pedestrians, pre-COVID, there's pedestrians everywhere. There's businesses, there's livelihood, there's restaurants. It's thriving, okay? And we hope that it sticks after COVID, that a lot of this momentum that downtown has gained continues, but no longer do you have to go to Chicago or New York to find, a great nightlife. You can find it right here in Detroit. So with no further ado, I'll just get into some of our slides, and that the first thing we did is we actually went to downtown Detroit to the Center for Creative Studies, and that is a elite graphic design, art design school down in the city of Detroit. And we said, who do your elite students go to work for product design? And so we got the name Sundberg-Ferar.
Yay!
Yes, Javi, right? So we'll make this definitely a little bit of a commercial for you guys. But we came to Sundberg and we sat down with several of the designers, and they said, well, what do you want it to look like? And we said, we don't know. All right, what we do know is that we want to make a Detroit identity, okay? We want it to say Detroit. And we're talking about the city and the grit and everything. We'll talk about that. So Sundberg did a great job. I mean, we took a look, if you take a look at the downtown riverfront, there's the Renaissance building, which is owned by General Motors. But more importantly, really, everyone thinks of Detroit as a Renaissance Center, but the other buildings downtown are way cooler, all right? So if you take a look back in the 30s, Albert Hahn was the main designer for most of the buildings downtown, over 100. And it's a very Gothic design, and kind of harkens back to maybe a Batman movie, if you will, or something along those lines, or Gotham. But
I would see Batman sitting on the Guardian building.
yeah, exactly. So the Batman sitting on the Guardian building, which was the original home of Sundberg-Ferar back in
Yes, you're right.
1934.
1934, it was started right there. Great
Yeah,
memory.
that's right. So as you can see, the city was extremely well lit back then, probably overlit, if you will. So we, but it did a great job of accenting the buildings, right, and showing off the city. But the city isn't just about buildings, okay? It's about an attitude. And so when you go downtown, you see this fist, okay? And most people don't know what it is, but it's actually Joe Louis's fist, a heavyweight boxing champion from the 50s. And he trained and grew up and trained in Detroit, just right off of downtown. So it's about toughness. It's about the spirit of the people. This statue is actually called the Spirit of Detroit and sits outside of City Hall. Um, and it's about, like I said, backwards. About the spirit, about the grit, the grime, the hustle of Detroit. Uh, this is a great mural that's in the Detroit Institute of Arts downtown, but in real life, it looked more like this, right? And these people, I mean, this is rough and tumble uh, auto manufacturing in the city of Detroit. I mean, Detroit put the city on, or put the country on wheels. If you look more today, you see incorporating more of a look today too. You see a lot of robotic, a lot of high tech. I know the Silicon Valley is all about high tech, but so is Detroit. Okay, and we're using all the latest and greatest manufacturing techniques to bring fine automobiles to market. So what Sundberg did with us is we start to compile all the things that we think kind of say Detroit. So obviously Joe Louis's fist, right, being tough, and then we start looking at, you see a badge right there. Well, anyone who makes a product, you should be proud of that product and be able to put your name right on it, right? Whether it's a badge or a casted into the product. For example, we give a 10-year warranty on all of our products. All right. Well, many of our competition that's coming in from, the Pacific Rim, you cannot find their name anywhere on any menu. So if they have a warranty, you open it up a year later, you don't have any idea who the manufacturer was. You don't know who to follow up with. You don't know where to get this warranty done. Lumecon, we're like automotive too, in that we want to just stamp our name right on it. So basically badging, iconic. If you start looking at bone lines of automobiles, right? These something that most designers in lighting use what's called a European design. And that is to have smooth corners and to make it to sort of blend into the landscaping. We don't want to see it. We took the opposite approach. When an F-150 is behind you, right? When a GMC Sierra just, pulled up alongside of you. Why? Because of the large hood, very masculine look, heavy bone lines, and sort of a little bit in your face, right? Kind of the Detroit attitude. So you start compiling these all together and started to sketch and started to draw, and Sundberg helped us, start taking product to CAD, and that basically, along with, I saw some comments in the chat section, so I threw some slides in right here too to talk about another detail that we wanted to do is we wanted to source all of this product locally. Okay, so most die casting today comes from the Pacific Rim. This is from Muskegon, Michigan. This is a gentleman who's polishing off the tool that we made. So we cast everything in Muskegon, Michigan, and we bring it over here to Farmington Hills. We powder coat using PPG, Envirocron powder coating. That's all done in Flint, Michigan. So our product goes from Muskegon to Flint, and then comes back down to Farmington Hills. So we're keeping everything local, and believe me, whether it's the Suez Canal blockage or whether it's COVID or whatever else, there's been a lot of pipeline issues for a lot of lighting manufacturers and other manufacturers to that point. Whereas we really didn't have those problems, and we still don't have those problems. Why? Because we source locally, nothing gets pent up, in the supply chain, and it really alleviates a lot of headaches for logistics, with your product line. So by powder coating it there. So now you're starting to see, we first came up with these wall packs, and you can take a look at, most wall packs, like I said, they blend into the building and we kind of stand out. We're more of an artistic piece that we believe. The lensing that you're seeing here on the product is all done in Charlevoix, Michigan. It's a prismatic injection molded from Charlevoix, Michigan, which is a heavy tourist town in northern Michigan, but they do a great job of injection molding prisms into acrylic. So you take a look at the profile, you can see again the heavy bone lines on the top, of the sleekness of it. We integrated into hot pour gasketing, which we do right down the street at a company called Rumpf. Hot pour gasketing is an automotive move, which means that you can actually open and close this fixture infinite number of times and not lose compression, on there. So another thought that came along with this design. You can even see the brass inserts that we have on the lensing, which is just something that no one else does because you don't want the lens to crack. So reinforce all the bolt holes on it. Along with lines too is, we can't forget about the LEDs, right? And so we actually work with 3 local manufacturers who make our LED boards for us. In fact, we're their only LED customer. The rest of it is they're doing automotive, like ECMs and other different circuitry boards for automotive cars, but yet they place LEDs for us. So again, keeping that local and keeping it, close to the vest. So continuing on talking about the design, then we got into the area lights. And so as you can see, we've casted our name directly into the product. You can see again the heavy bone lines that are involved with a great looking belly pan on the underneath. This lensing was custom made for this product. Why? Because we don't want to waste any of the lumens, and we were very, very concerned about how does the light hit the environment, right? And so for dark skies, for example, even being full cutoff, meaning no light going up from the luminaire, a lot of light pollution comes from if you put too much intensity of light directly down onto the pavement, it will bounce off and reflect into the sky, right?
Can I interject here, Bob? Just for the audience, so when Bob is saying dark skies, I think some of us are already in the world of astronomy. But
Yes.
if you are trying to go for stargazing, the light pollution in the big cities is really a no-no. So for me, when I have to go, I have to seek out these dark sky parks available as such. And I think that's where I think you're trying to solve. It might not be a primary kind of I would say concern of the buyer, but you are going over and beyond to understand what is the societal impact of it. And that's why you're trying to, I think, making it more and more designed for this newer dark sky projects.
That's correct. That's correct. And there's a lot more that goes into it, which I'll talk about in a second. But being environmentally friendly with lighting is very possible. It's easy to do. Not only do people want to see stars in the sky, right? But they also, you have to worry about short wavelength white light, and that can actually disrupt, your circadian rhythms, if you will, and the circadian entrainment system. So we'll talk more about that later. So again, everything is form and function, right? To make sure that not only does it look good, but it's got to be functional too. So again, you're seeing here that we actually enlarged the belly pan area because you know what? We don't know what's coming down the pipe technology wise. And there's you see all kinds of things hanging off of poles like cameras and sensors and so on and controls. And we wanted a big section to be able to hold all that stuff instead of strapping it to a pole and really, uglifying the pole, if you will. We can actually incorporate into the lighting fixture so that it's a one-stop shop for all your technology, and it can be in a very nice package that's up on that pole. So a lot of things, a lot of thought, going into this, and also too, something else to be, to be eco-friendly as well, not in saving energy. You see here that we have the ability to add occupancy sensing, right? So if no one's around, why do you need bright light? You can dim it down or even turn it off. And those are very possible to do today with today's technology. And so there really isn't a reason for an empty intersection to be fully lit until maybe somebody arrives in that area, and then it can come up to full brightness. So rounding this out, you know, we really take a lot of pride that this product was inspired, it was designed, it was engineered, it's cast, it's injection molded, it's built, and it's delivered not only in the United States, but really in Michigan, and within about a 200-mile radius of our facility. So, you know, kind of putting a bow on it, I'll get to that in a second, but so that's my presentation today. I just wanted to share with you how design can actually really be inspiring, and how it can really make a statement for your company and who you are as a company.
And that's beautiful, Bob. It's literally, as you said, you had the option to blend in and just be in this kind of an invisible world, or you have the option to bring out the beauty in this functional part, right? Means this literally goes back to the first line, means a functional thing also can be exceptional. And then there are so many different facets you can add to it, and you choose to work on the heritage of the birth or genesis of Lumecon. And it's just amazing to see. It's not that far away. Muskegon, by the way, people who might not been, these cities are all in Michigan, so this completely close knit thing, and you can monitor the craftsmanship and the manufacturing things of it. And there are so many questions I would like to ask from maybe the dark sky or other things, but this going over and beyond, right? Means no matter what, this might not have been into an RFQ of a municipality as such. What made you inspired and choose to make sure you're still covering things which not might be completely asked, but eventually you're anticipating the needs from the society? And how are you using it to get more contracts, if any?
Well, you know, that's a good question. And so when you're sitting down deciding what this light's going to be able to do, there's so many easy things that you can just add to your option list to make it much more user friendly and also to be eco-environmentally friendly. You basically, like for example, here, let me show you. This is something that we take a lot of passion in, okay? I'll go back to the screen here. Let's do this. So one thing you can add is that by having different color temperatures available. So for example, when LEDs first came out, it was all about using 5,000 Kelvin temperature, okay? And I'm showing on the screen here, 2200 Kelvin, 2700 Kelvin, 3000 Kelvin, okay? These are all what was considered warm white. But it was all about how many lumens per watt could you hit, and they were all 6,000 Kelvin, which is a really stark blue, whitish light. There's 5,000 Kelvin, still very, very, and people thought, well, we see better and everything else. Yes, that's a little bit on the true side, but having said that, that short blue wavelength, okay, that is what, it's a short wavelength, so it scatters. And so that's why the sky is blue outside, is because you're getting a lot of short blue wavelength and it scatters. Well, the same thing happens at night. And that is that if you're producing this kind of light, you know, 5,000 K, 6,000 K, it's going to scatter and it's going to actually diffuse the sky so that you cannot see the stars. So why not offer a 2200 Kelvin temperature or a 2700 Kelvin temperature that has no short blue wavelength in it, and so that you can really reduce light pollution by just offering a different color and you know, and putting it in your lineup, as opposed to it being a custom thing being done. So just one example of I think that might answer your question a little bit. So
no, that's beautiful, because it's not just about pointing in or out, or you're saying about the reflections from the white concrete going in and out, but understanding the optics and the fine tuning of the temperature over there. As you're mentioning, I think my kids, they're pretty small, but they always ask questions like this, like, why is the sky blue color? But kind of you answered that question about
Mhm.
so many spectrums of the shortest one, the blue scatters, and that's why the sky looks blue. So maybe one surprise test for all the audience. We all see the sky blue color. It is blue color right now. Immediately, without thinking, let me know in the chat box. Are you ready? The answer to this question. Look outside. Maybe imagine it's afternoon at your place. Look at the sun and write down what the color it is. Let's go for it. You look at sky, it looks blue. Look at the sun and tell me what the color is. What's the color of our sun? Awesome, Mercedes, Troy. Oh my God, hi Troy. It is white. It's because of the other element of we're talking about scattering with dust particles and maybe soot in the air and so many other elements over there. I can't see it cloudy. Alexander, yeah, I think Gary, you're asking for another light supplier. You should talk with Alexander also. So I think it's some things are so simple to see and answer. Not everything can be intuitive, but there's so many reasons of science or physics or optics behind it. Anyway, you also mentioned Bob about the light and light scattering. I think most of people know I love birds and bird photography. I think it's a big thing in the world of migration. That the lights affect a lot, especially during this month. Actually, the migration is full bloom. Eventually, it pass through Michigan and go to the Arctic. Are you seeing any need from the audiences or your, let's say, customers in trying to see how they can add this kind of an, I would say, incremental cost to aid something that's really good for migration? Eventually, they're going to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
colonization and all the things also. How do you identify these things? Those are good things. And then how do you use it in your, I don't know, pitch or letting people know what else you're doing for? How does it help in all these design virtues? When this is, and by the way, I hope many people like you in your world who are looking at their products in just an, yeah, it's a functional thing. No, there's so many layers and layers you can add the appreciation of it. We would love to have most of them, but coming back to the question means how would this be? Are you doing it for your altruistic reasons? Is somebody specifically asking for that? Or are you seeing the need of the society putting it on the municipalities or the cities, making sure that they are green in this sustainable way?
Great question. So the we're starting to see more and more municipalities uh, uh, going after dark sky compliant lighting. And the reason why is twofold. One is that they want to be eco-friendly. Like I said, uh, there's no reason to produce that kind of blue short wavelength light at night. You don't need it. Our entrainment systems don't want it. And not just humans. This is animals and everything else too. And we also don't want to interfere with migration, like you said. Most migrating animals use the moon as the moonlight as some kind of source to either for direction or for sight. And so you don't want to interfere as much as possible with the moon. So for example, lowering, we always see 25, 30-foot lights up in the air. They don't need to be that high, especially with LEDs. It's not like we're taking this ball that was in a lamp and throwing it out there. We need to be as high as we can and act like the sun. We can bring it down low now with LEDs, and as long as your lensing is correct, you can actually redistribute those lumens out, still cover the same area, but at a much lower height, so that you're not interfering with migration, for example, and people coming above you. But to answer the other question, that is that we're seeing a lot of on the West Coast. It's starting to come this way into Middle America, of being dark skies friendly, not only for eco reasons, but also for financial reasons. And what I mean by that is actually dark sky parks, like you mentioned earlier, you go do photography, there's heavy tourism and a need and a want for people to visit areas where they can see the stars. Okay, and so that's becoming a hot item nowadays. So there's a lot of areas around the country that are working hard to redo their lighting so that you can see the stars, to bring tourism in, and to get people to come to that area. And last but not least, a well-lit area done correctly can really enhance the ambiance of an environment. So for example, If you have a restaurant and you're outdoor, your whole outdoor patio, if it's lit by one cobra head that's 40 feet in the air, all you're going to see is the tops of everybody's heads. And it's not going to be very warm, inviting, area at all. But if you were to bring 3 or 4 lights and bring them down to a very low level and have some horizontal lighting as opposed to hitting the pavement and shooting it up, now you're starting to light people's faces, and so that you can see and converse with the person that's with you, and you can see their inflections and their nonverbal. And guess what? It's been proven that a restaurant that's lit outdoors that way versus top down draws more people to it. More people want to be in that environment, and so it makes it much more comfortable and enticing. So, and it's very dark sky friendly to do it that way. So.
It is. And you mentioned about the ambience, but I think a well-lit area itself also helps in lowering the crime rates. There are plenty of other things that just automatically start to happen, but that will happen with any lighting. But eventually coming to the LED, now you don't need those age-old elements of going 40 feet high and then servicing the Cobra head at 40 feet high. That also is an added cost. And we can sometimes see how they may or may not work with each other. So when you talked about cities, and I think some of the cities who are thinking in this way are also trying to think about being more sustainable from solar power or things like that. So I know it's a complete different play, but how do you think about going forward? I think, I do not know if you want, we don't need to talk about the future plans, but how does the solar, harnessing the solar energy and coupled with right now the street lighting would play out or should play out?
Well, so LED actually helped propel solar to be more actually uh, make it have more reason. Because we're using so much less energy than, say, a high pressure sodium or a metal halide bulb, you actually, solar can actually work, right? So as solar has gotten better along the way, especially in rural areas, you no longer have to run, an electrical conduit, 5 miles out just so you can put a dusk to dawn lamp up in an intersection so that you can make it a safer intersection. Now you can actually put that one light on a solar array and it'll last for 40 years. Those are some of the things that solar really is helping out. Um, as far as lighting the entire city on using solar, I'm not sure technology-wise we're quite there yet, but having said that, we've come a long way. What I've seen happen in the last 16 years with LEDs and with solar has been amazing. I don't think we would have said that we'd be this far.
That's interesting. You also mentioned about the affinity of being here in Southeast Michigan and trying to learn from the other industries about the gaskets and the sealing, because you can open and close it as many number of things as you want. So things like that are necessary. But I think means I think we were talking about it some time back. Means when I was growing up back in India, there was the sodium power lights on the streets, and literally every alternate light was an aquarium. I kid you not. It was like it was not a good thing, but sometimes the ceiling affects, and it's always exposed to snow and light and hailstorms and dirt and crime and bird poop and everything. So I think even the exterior cladding can or is designed to make sure we can use those natural forces against them and use them to eventually clean the ones. But talk a little bit about how you, as a functional lighting object company, are also thinking about how spiders should not go in, insects should not go in, and those kind of and biological. I would say stakeholders are there, and you are in a way trying to make sure you're always selling the right amount of lumens every time for the life of the product. Correct?
That's correct. And so not only do you want to make sure, that you're not wasting light, right? And we call it in the lighting industry a nadir dump, and that is a ton of light. It used to be with high pressure sodium that you would put this huge amount of light, 15, 25 foot candles right below the light in order to be able to get 0.5 foot candles 30, 40 feet away, right? So no longer could you have to do that. You can actually utilize, with the optical array, put 0.5 foot candles everywhere that it's doing so that you're not having this huge intensity. Now, as far as what you're talking about, yeah, you want to seal this fixture up because number one, you've got electronical components inside there that you don't want them to be, compromised by critters of the night and different, insects and so on and so forth. So you have to have a great seal there too. Also, though, the actual casting itself and the design is actually symbiotic to the LEDs and to the driver. Why? Because electronic components create heat. So either if they're creating lumens or if they're generating power, they create heat. So you have to have the design of the fixture too work with those componentries to be able to basically act as a heat sink and pull and extract the heat out into the ambient environment. So to that point, a metal halide lamp would get up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, okay, very, very hot and would burn, wildlife or anything else that came in contact. In fact, it was like a insect magnet, right? Where it would, like a
Yes,
bug,
you can see them
so
all buzzing around, and
the
it.
zapper, yeah, and so the nice thing about LEDs is that, every insect has a reason why it goes to light, all right? There's 900 reasons why they do it. But one big reason is infrared, and another big reason is ultraviolet that does, again, they're thinking it's, because of the heat or because it's the moon, whatever it is, that's why they're attracted to light. Well, LEDs don't produce, infrared light, and they also don't produce ultraviolet. So it knocks down the huge amount of insects that are attracted to the light. And then last but not least, like you've already talked about, Javik, you got to design it in a way so that snow will flaw, will just basically slide off of it. Another little trick we do too is that, here in Michigan, we put salt on the roads to melt the ice. But if you're on the West Coast, you know about salt spray from the ocean, the West, East Coast, the Gulf. You understand what we're talking about. So we actually conformal coat with a 2-part urethane every one of our LED boards. Because guess what? That salt will eat into the solder joints of an LED array and cause it to stop working. And so doing one little thing like spraying it with a conformal coat before you install it helps prevent, and withstand, all kinds of elements out there.
I like the attention to detail, and again, there is no bias over here. But let me try to connect that with the questions coming in from the audience. Let me take the first question from Alexander. Are your customers able to appreciate the beauty and the detailings of your product? Do they truly consider the looks of lighting products? Seems like at least the perception might be lots of buyers might just focus on cost.
You're absolutely right. That's a great question too. Yes, we fight that every day, right? And that is, cost, cost, cost. Don't care where it's made. It doesn't care what it looks like. We call those trunk slammers, right? The people that show up in their trunk, they open it up, they've got a product to sell you, and then they move on. So yes, we fight that every day. What we believe in, and if we get to the right people, and that is that you can get a great architect, if you're concerned about your environment, if you're concerned about the aesthetics, if you want it made in the United States, if you want it made in America, and you're employing, our fellow neighbors and giving them jobs, then you have to get the word out, and you have to do things like this, to make other people realize that there's more to lighting than just whatever the cheapest thing you can buy is, and hopefully it works, right?
Light is not just light. There's so many factors over here. But I will also introduce you to Alex. He also is into the LED lighting supplier world. One more question from David. Does Lumecon have a product development strategy centered around energy storage for further use in the lighting systems?
Yeah, so not so much us, right? We are definitely an LED manufacturing company, but you know what? We actually do sell a lot of our products to companies who do things like that. So the people that are in solar and energy storage and so on and so forth, using some type of lithium batteries and so on and so forth, we do have DC direct capabilities with our lights to be able to interact with that other technology. So, we're a small kind of boutique lighting company, if you will. and we definitely are centered on what we do and what we do best. So no, the answer is we're not centered on that, but we are working with people who are. So
Awesome. And as I said, the industry is formed of so many players, and everybody brings in the expertise to the table. If
mhm.
there's a solution for a city, from energy storage, from LED, from any other, let's say, sensorification, you bring in the matter that is more experts are, and that's your technology and the products. And then I think making sure you're talking with these other elements and making it over there. That's beautiful. There are questions are just coming in. This is from. I don't know how to say this, Sia or Chia Mooney from the West Coast. Can you talk about product platform approach? Like, are you, means I'm trying to now add and paraphrasing the questions over here. Are you using any product platform approach for the range of your different products now, starting with the Detroit Lighting series?
So are we building on that? Do you mean? Is that what they're saying? Okay. Um, so yes, so we have the Detroit series. We that are area lights. We have wall packs. We also have decorative fixtures that are in our Detroit series line. We have it's called a Ring of Fire technology, uh, and then we've also started another line called our Workman series. It's still in the same vein of tough, gritty, Detroit pride, but it's something a little bit more inexpensive, if you will, down, but still carries all of our reputation and all of our quality in that product line. So every day we're looking at, what can we do next?
That's pretty interesting. So I know we are coming towards the end of our time, and I see John patiently waiting over there. But there are still a couple of questions that we can take
Okay.
from Kayla. I think this is more. I think coming back to your experience as a business leader, as a manager, as a leader as such. So any tips and strategies to help continue trying to push the company she's working for towards being a leader rather than a follower? So I think coming back to your experiences, any thoughtful takeaways or wisdoms of nuggets of wisdom for people to be a leader, to emulate you?
Well, I think have a mantra, right? That's got to be number one. You have to all be on the same page, rowing the boat in the same direction. And so, even though we use the Detroit inspiration as the design cue, right? It's also our story. We go all over the place, and people, in California, say, because we put the mitten, which we call Michigan, because everybody looks like a mitten, right? And I live here. That's how you do it. But you talk about the mitten in California, and they're like, well, what do we care? Like that. And I'm like, well, because we care where we come from, right? And we care about the people that we are employing. And it's our mantra that we promote everywhere. When Coors went national after Smoking the Bandit movie, they never took the Rocky Mountains off their cans, did they? No, because they're from Colorado, and so you have to remember where you came from, and remember those who got you there, and that includes your employees, and your partners and everybody that you work with. It's not a one-man show, a one-woman show. It's always a team with a mantra and something that you can rally around. It just makes every day coming in here and working and manufacturing and selling a lot more fun.
Absolutely, that's pretty interesting. And maybe one smaller question here. It's I'm going to paraphrase that a little bit more differently. It's from John about any role. Yeah, I think we are getting cheers from the UP from
Yeah,
David over.
sorry, my UP brothers. I apologize, but we're in Marquette and everywhere else up there too.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
The role of circularity. Now we are talking about the circularity of design, and it might the question has a breadth of anywhere you can go. But how are you thinking about, because it's a pretty heavy piece and chunk of metal as such? How do you think about the afterlife or the second life of this? Decently in a realistically literally very heavy pieces of street lights, or the average life that we should be considering, and how does that play in your world?
Right. So the beautiful thing about LED lighting is that like I said, we're using a lot of aluminum, and so you talked about a big heavy, completely recyclable, right? And so in many cases, yeah, exactly, right. So the there's very few components that are in the product that are not recyclable, but almost the entire thing is. Again, for example, our HID, our old lighting, had mercury inside of the bulbs, and we have zero mercury content, throughout the product. So it's a healthier light. It's a better light. It's not perfect, but it's come a long way. And if used correctly, you can really build an ecosystem that is well lit, but also very, very friendly.
I love that. Do you have any service in trying to take care of that at the end of the light's life, or is that a part of how you sell it to the cities, or that's a completely different contract?
It's a different contract. The nice thing though too is about durability, right? And so a lot of lights in the past, the bulbs had a 1 year lifespan. The ballast, which drove the light, that had maybe a 3 to 4 year lifespan. Okay, and so those ballasts are potted in tar, and they're kind of nasty, to manufacture drivers and ballasts. So if it's going to be a nasty process, to make like a driver, you want it to last as long as possible. So the nice thing is that, if built correctly and heat sink correctly, an LED light can last 20 years, and that's not exaggerating. So I wouldn't go much beyond that, but so you talk about not, kind of putting it up and forgetting about it. You're not constantly recycling bulbs with mercury, ballast that are potted in tar. These are all things that, you're slowing down the cycle, of having to recycle.
That's beautiful. And there are still plenty questions, and I have a couple of ideas of what we could do next. Means why not doing this light series with bird boxes on it or osprey nests on it? And because some of these cell phone towers have starting to do that, because ospreys or the bigger predator birds try to make their nest on the tallest structures nearby, and that's where the main satellite emitting things are. So now they're going to going one more level higher and giving the ospreys a place to do a nest, and then keeping the technology pretty safe. That will be pretty interesting one too. So I think we are almost at the end. Maybe one more.
Oh, okay.
Something personal, Bob. Last year was what it was. It gave us time to think about who we are and what we do. What would be one element that you learned from this shelter in place that we went through last year?
I think the one element is that you really, I'm super proud of everybody that works for Lumicon. There was a lot of challenges, right? I mean, not only being locked down and everything else, but also the health concerns, right? And I think that everyone that worked here really looked out for each other. They minimized their contact outside of work to be able to make sure that their coworkers were safe. And I think the human spirit really is what showed me a lot during COVID. Is the one thing that just when you start thinking maybe humanity is going in the wrong direction, you throw in an adverse situation, and you really see the best in people. And so I'm really proud of everyone that works at Lumicon and how we all came through and still coming through, right? This is not done yet. So I'm just super impressed. Shouldn't have been surprised. And I just, that's the one thing that I think I can bring from it.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you again, Bob. That's
Hey,
really great from me and all the audience as such. Thanks for your time. We will be jumping over to the next speaker in 5 minutes.